Welcome to SVGTV News for Wednesday, September 30th, 2020. I am Rochelle Baptiste with the details. The Ministry of Education today released the preliminary results of the August 2020 Caribbean Examinations Council Secondary Education Certificate Examinations, CSEC. And the Girls High School tops the performances with a pass rate of 97.88%. The ministry said in the news release that the St. Martin's Secondary School returned a pass rate of 94.48%, the Beckway Seventh-day Adventist School 94.19%, and the St. Vincent Grammar School 93.32%. 4 students from the Girls High School performed outstandingly. Paige Kodagan sat 15 subjects, obtaining 14 grade 1s and a grade 2. Zoe Bullock, Denicia Parson, and Janika Williams each sat 13 subjects and obtained all grade 1s. The ministry said the Central Leeward Secondary and the Bookament-based Secondary showed vast improvement this year. A total of 2,425 candidates were registered, of which 856 were private candidates and 1,569 were school candidates. There were 1,552 school candidates sitting the 10,914 subject entries in 31 subject areas from 26 secondary schools. Approximately 81.86% of the subject entries were awarded grades 1 to 3. The Ministry of Education extended congratulations to all students as well as the principals, teachers and staff at all schools for their support of the students. Opposition Member of Parliament for West Kingstown, Daniel Cummins, is calling for an independent investigation into the 4 dengue fever deaths in SVG. Speaking at a news conference today, Cummins said they are aware that there are limited resources to address dengue fever in the country and that an investigation will seek to address the proper management of the disease and correct the wrongs.
I am saying, categorically, there must be a serious investigation, independent investigation into the death of these people who died from dengue, with particular emphasis on the 4-year-old, to understand if there are problems in the delivery of health care and how those problems must be addressed. Not with any intention of scapegoating, but to pinpoint the problems because there are nightmares in the healthcare delivery system. We need an independent investigation with a view to correcting those problems. We have too many good professionals in the system, but something is wrong.
Also speaking at the news conference was the leader of the opposition, Dr. Godwin Friday, who said that the government has no forward planning to deal with dengue fever and that Minister of Health Luke Brown must be held accountable for the outbreak of dengue fever and the poor management of the disease. The opposition leader also called for the firing or resignation of the Minister of Health or that he should be fired.
To the point, they drop the ball, but they drop it on people's foot.
Big time.
Because people are hurting, they're suffering. Schools are disrupted now. People have died. The Minister of Health dropped the ball. The Minister of Health, if he has any decency, should resign. If he doesn't resign, then he should be fired. Because this is something we should not be dealing with at this time, in this manner.
Both Cummins and Dr. Friday agreed that there was poor handling of the mosquito-borne disease as it is preventable disease and no one should have died from it. Cummins, who is the party's spokesperson on health, said that he has witnessed many parents with children showing up at the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital and having to wait for hours to see a doctor. He also said that there should be protocols in place for dengue fever.
given the outbreak of the first case of dengue in this country, and given all the warnings the ministry received, there should have been a very detailed program establishing all of the protocols for every health center and hospital in this country. There should not be a doctor in this country who shouldn't be on the alert for the evidence of dengue, especially when you have many good doctors who have serious communication skills because English is not their first language.
Cummins is of the view that there are more cases of dengue fever in SVG, as confirmed cases are only laboratory tested.
Their interest and emphasis is not about dealing with dengue, but suppressing information that makes them look bad. Check the history of this government. Their interest is suppressing information. They wouldn't tell you when you have 300 suspected cases of dengue. They will tell you when you test 100. If you tell the people what the reality is, if the ministry of, even the officials, there are several doctors you'll speak to who will tell you when you see 300 positive tests, you know you pass 1,000 in actual cases. That is the kind of information the public needs to know so that they can be aware and they can take action. Don't suppress it. Tell the truth. Let people understand that we have a problem and it could turn into a nightmare. That's how people who care deal with these situations. Certainly if I had responsibility for health in this country, the first sign of that outbreak, that is time to call a press conference. That is time to alert all the people. But before that, you would have taken other steps.
Figures from the Ministry of Health revealed that SVG has 432 confirmed cases and 4 confirmed deaths. The Solid Waste Management Unit is encouraging all Vincentians to make use of the white goods collection service, which started on Monday, September 28th and will end on Saturday, October 3rd, 2020. Manager of the Solid Waste Management Unit, Winsbot Kwao, said with the outbreak of dengue fever in SVG, now is a good time to get rid of the old items around the house that could act as a breeding ground for mosquitoes. He said that the collection is free and the number of large items such as old fridge and mattresses will not be rejected. Kwao said they may consider extending the collection, maybe following a review of the areas that have larger quantities of white goods. The Solid Waste Management collects white goods twice a year, and since its collection in 2011, Kwao said that several thousand tons of garbage have been handled. Meanwhile, Director of the National Emergency Management Organization, Michelle Forbes, has also urged citizens to properly dispose of their waste and not to dump them in the rivers or creeks as practiced by some residents.
This week to dispose of your old fridge and your own stove and all of those things around your home. Do not throw them on the river. Do not throw them on the river banks. I mean, we were observing right outside Nemo, we have a river there, and we saw people doing that same, dumping indiscriminately. We have old mattresses and all those things. And when you have the heavy rainfall, these things come down in the river. They block the rivers, they block across by the bridges, they overtop the bridges and makes the flooding a bit more extreme, because then you have that force of water coming down if their property is below.
The NEMO director also commented on the timeliness of the white goods collection service, which she said citizens should take advantage of.
We are also asking persons, I know this week is the Solid Waste Management Unit have their white goods week. Use the opportunity to use this week to get rid of your white goods. It's free this week. You can call Solid Waste Management Unit if you cannot get your stuff out in this period. But use this week to get rid of your stuff. Do not throw them in the rivers and the streams, because they do come down when we have heavy rainfall, and we are seeing too much of that still happening, even though we have the CWSA offering this service at least twice a year.
Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves has underscored the importance of the government's contingency fund, which was established some 3 years ago. In his weekly session on NBC Radio this morning, the Prime Minister said the fund, which comes from a $3 levy on hotel guests, has accumulated to 33 million EC dollars. He said this along with 50% of the reserve portion of a 0% 45-year World Bank loan has been set aside to provide immediate relief assistance in the event that a national disaster is declared.
Now, this is very important because of this hurricane season and the climate change. Very important, because what it means, I have $54 million there put aside. Plus, you will remember that we started the year with $33 million in the contingency fund. We take $10 million out of that to help to spend during this COVID. So I have 23, and that it will grow bit by bit again. So 23 and 54, which we have put aside under the CAT DDO from the World Bank. That is $77 million and growing. So if we have a disaster now, God forbid, and I'm knocking wood, I could put people in the shelters. I could help to repair this, I could do that, I could hire the bulldozer them, I could. Before I get further assistance, or before I could go out and get soft loans or grants.
Sharing information, he said, was obtained in conversation this week with the governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. PM Gonsalves said all members of the currency union are projected to experience declines in their output ranging from -4% to -25.5% this year. This country's GDP is projected to be -5.3%. The Prime Minister said SVG is doing better than the other independent states in the currency union and attributed this to two factors.
Our economy is not as heavily tourism dependent as Anguilla, Antigua, St. Lucia, Grenada, and St. Kitts. So that's the first thing. It is true that services make up close to 80% of our economy, but we have a variety of services. But what is important to note is that we still have a vibrant tourism, we still have a vibrant agricultural sector, we have a vibrant fishing sector, and we have a still important, vibrant light manufacturing sector. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that of all these countries, we're the only one which never locked down. We never do state of emergency, we never do curfew, and we never do any lock it down tight like a drum. No state of emergency, none of those things. No, as the opposition was calling for here, no draconian Chinese methods. We had restrictions, and I don't have to go over those restrictions. But what is interesting is that we are in no worse position. In fact, we are in a pretty good position compared to the others.
Founder and former leader of the opposition New Democratic Party, Sir James Mitchell, announced last Saturday that his party will be using white T-shirts rather than the party's color yellow in the upcoming general elections in an effort to bring unity among Vincentians. But some persons have since questioned why the announcement was being made by the former leader, not the current party leader, Dr. Godwin Friday. At today's news conference, Dr. Friday said that the party colors have not changed and that it is a non-issue.
I don't see it as an issue that you announce necessarily. I mean, it's not something I would have a press conference about or announce on a platform necessarily. I mean, if somebody thinks that is, normally we have campaigns. We put out the T-shirts when they're printed and done. That's it. You don't announce what color your thing is. So that's why I never thought of it as something that I should be announcing. It's not a big deal.
Unstable conditions associated with the passage of 2 tropical waves have been generating showers and thunderstorm activity across St. Vincent and the Grenadines during the last few days. By Thursday, another tropical wave interacting on the very favorable upper-level conditions is expected to add further deterioration to the weather conditions, which could possibly result in flash flooding and land slippage. The Met Office is advising that residents and motorists in areas prone to flooding and landslides or living near rivers and streams to stay alert throughout this week, as the atmosphere is expected to remain moist and unstable. As a result, a flash flood watch or warning may be issued at short notice as conditions warrant. In addition, a deterioration in sea conditions is also expected, with swells picking up to 2.5 meters or 9 feet. Therefore, small craft operators and seabathers should continue to exercise caution. The SVG Met Services says it will continue to monitor the progress of this tropical wave and provide updates as necessary. The National Independence Activities 2020 will kick off this Friday with a handing over ceremony of the recently launched patriotic and folk songbooks to educational institutions across the country. A cultural officer and coordinator of the activities, Maxine Brown, told SVG-TV News today that Friday's handing over ceremony will commence at 1:30 p.m. at the Peace Memorial Hall. She said other activities for the month celebration will include several concerts, a national dance showcase, and will culminate with the virtual National Schools Independence Showcase. Brown said community involvement is key in the national independence celebrations and encouraged community groups to register their program of activities with the cultural department. She said that due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the department will be putting measures in place to ensure they adhere to the necessary guidelines and protocols.
Encourage Vincentians to reach out to the Department of Culture and let us know what's happening in your community so we can incorporate your activities that you're undertaking in your communities in this independence calendar. So again, reach out to us at Culture, Ms. Maxine Brown or any other dance officer or any other dance officers or officers, and let us know what you're doing so we can include you. Within the Department of Culture, we know it's community-oriented and we want to engage our communities because together we can make a difference. So I continue to follow protocols laid down by the Ministry of Health because it's important for us to follow those protocols. I will reiterate the fact that even with COVID-19, the work has to continue. And so we'll take the precautions, but we'll still try to get the work done. But where we'll have bigger crowds, we'll have reduced numbers. So I think the activities will continue, but we just appeal and our improve incentives to maintain the social distancing, follow all the protocols laid down. And I think we can achieve this because this COVID-19 will be with us for a long time. As you can see also, dengue has taken over. So we have to follow the various protocols laid down by the Ministry of Health, and together we can continue to make that difference.
The National Cultural Foundation will be embarking on a project to build the capacity of the craft industry focusing on women. The project, which is funded by Canada Funds for Local Initiative, the CLFI, at just over 151,000 EC dollars, will be rolled out under the theme Rebranding the Craft Industry, an Artistic Response to COVID-19. Director of the NCF, Maxine Brown, said the project will help to boost the capacity of the local craft industry and promote the country's culture through workshops and film technology. She said through the project, they will also be able to network with other persons in the region who are undertaking similar projects. Brown said they are determined to make the local project a success.
After all, should we really invest and create the presence and the production in this particular workshop? It's sponsored usually for 1 year, but we were told if we made the impact we should make, we will actually get 2 years funding. So a clap for that, feeling. We embrace that. Okay, so we'll be working hard to ensure it's a success. This project will seek to boost the craft industry by changing the way that producers market their products. The major goal of this project is to create economic benefits for the producers in the rural areas by uplifting the poorest, and the most vulnerable in these communities through the sale of locally made products using local raw material in a substantial way. This project is about using local products with a modern tech platform to assist in bridging the generation gap and promoting the indigenous culture of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which is unique in the Caribbean and even globally. Additionally, it will aim to introduce the younger generation to indigenous practices through training them in film to be able to capture the stories of indigenous craft for global marketing.
Administrator of the project, Julian Pillin Pollard, will serve as one of the facilitators of the workshop, which will be held at a recently opened SVG Development Center of the Arts. Pollard told SVG-TV News that there will be 5 workshops, 3 of which will cater for some 60 women involved with craft production, and the other 2 will be an introduction to film technologies.
Not in a workshop to sort of teach you craft. What we want to do is to take the craft producers who are there now and help them to rebrand their product. It isn't related to the COVID-19 because COVID-19 closed down our entire tourist season. And I know not just only in St. Vincent, but in the Grenadines, people relied on making that little tourist dollar to keep them going for the year. So what we decided to do was to try and initiate marketing, not based on people coming here, but on us trying to reach the market through social media, through Google, Facebook, Instagram. So we are going to try and rebrand the craft by using the technology to help and assist the craft producers to get their message out, to show the public what they have.
The first workshop is expected to begin on October 5th and end on the 29th for craft women on the windward side of the island.
Have handed down their craft from generation to generation in Orange Hill, in Sandy Bay, even Fancy. So we have invited these ladies to come, and we wanted them to look at new designs, new ways of doing the traditional work that they did in terms of adding color. We would like to improve the quality and do some business skills. Also, introduction to computers. We have facilitators who will come in and show them how to work to get stuff on Facebook, to get it on YouTube. And we are hoping that once you do that, we have a lot of Vincentians who live in the diaspora, New York, England. They can then see the craft that we have and order it from there.
The second workshop will run from November 9th to the December 10th for women on the Leeward Coast, while the third workshop will run from January 4th to the 28th, 2021 for women in the Grenadines and central communities on the mainland. Pollard said the main objective is for the participants to sell an experience focusing on the country's culture and craft.
We're going to be able to tell people with your craft of the history of St. Vincent, of the history of the Garifuna, of Chief Chatouillet, etc. So we're selling St. Vincent that way. There is also new design concepts, market research, practical analysis of the market research, quality control and production time, coming up with creative ideas and new products. That's week 1. Week 2 is business management for small business, packaging, presentation, promotion, because you only get one chance to make a first impression. And if online we can make a good impression, you will get repeat customers. So we're looking forward to that. There's traditional and modernization of our color and our craft. Then we also will have tools, equipment, and technology, because the old-time style was for everybody to do things by hand. But that is laborious and time-consuming. And now all the equipment is electronic. So we need to bring people into that technological age so that they produce faster.
In some police news now, we hear that the police have arrested and charged Imran Khan McCoy, a 42-year-old mechanic of Sandy Bay, for robbery and wounding. Investigations revealed that the accused man allegedly robbed a 47-year-old farmer of Mount Grinnan of a quantity of items valued at $850. He was further charged with unlawfully and maliciously inflicting grievous bodily harm on the said farmer by beating him with a piece of 2x2 board. The incident occurred at Bridgetown, Bayabu. McCoy is expected to appear in the serious offences court to answer to the charges. In a separate incident, 3 farmers of Calder were arrested and jointly charged with the offense of assault. They are 49-year-old Rupert Yearwood, 45-year-old Osborne Yearwood, and 25-year-old Silbod Yearwood. They allegedly assaulted a 39-year-old farmer of the same address by pointing a gun and raising a cutlass at him at Calder on Tuesday, September 29th. They are expected to appear in the magistrate court to answer to the charges.